Hello, 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 and welcome to another episode of For the Love of Sports. My name is Michael Rasile, and this is the show where I get to talk about sports, I get to talk about business, and I get to talk about everything in between. And I think betting lands right in that beautiful middle spot. I have, oh shit, Ari Borod.
Nailed it.
Nailed it. All right, Ari
Good
Borod.
enough. Good enough.
Oh, sorry, man. I know we just did this like 5 seconds ago, but I'm not too surprised with myself. Chief Commercial Officer at the Action Network, previously with FanDuel for over the last 3 years. Ari, how you doing today, man?
Doing great. How are you?
It's a good day to be alive, man. It's a good Monday. Made some money. Appreciate your help, or at least your team's help over there. So thank you for that. If you guys
It's
don't
certainly not
already,
my help, so I'm
hey,
glad.
man, you're part of the crew. You're part of the family. You're doing something right. If you are not paying attention already, make sure to go check out the Action Network. They're doing some cool stuff. I actually wrote a book, got Chad Millman in it. So that is a really interesting chapter. Appreciate the hell out of Chad for that. But enough about him. We're here to talk about you, Ari. So the first question I have for everybody on the For the Love of Sports podcast is, why do you love sports so much?
So I think when you stop to think about why I love sports so much, it's like It's like the best unscripted movie you could come up with. Like you can't watch like any movie you watch, you can see and say like you kind of knew that was going to happen at the end. Whereas how often when you're watching sports, you're like you can't make this stuff up. It's pure meritocracy. It's just someone's going to win, unscripted. Who's it going to be?
I love it. And yeah, it's on I always like explaining it as like an actual reality TV show, right? Like it's an actual reality TV show. We kind of know what's going to happen on the Kardashians. It's all like fake drama anyway. We don't really know what's going to happen in the NBA finals, right? I mean,
Yep.
obviously everyone was rooting for Lakers Celtics because it's the two most iconic franchises, blah 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 blah, but I was rooting for Lakers Heat because I want to see the Heat. I'm a huge LeBron fan, but seeing the Heat with Jimmy Butler and a bunch of ragtag dudes go up against LeBron and take him down, Pat Riley, I mean, I can only imagine what that press conference is going to be like at the end. Like, I don't know, man. I think that part's way more interesting.
Yeah, and even if you know, or like and I think sports betting is a good example of like outcomes. People have a very good idea what they might be. You have no clue how you're going to get there, what's
And
going to happen. But yeah,
And sometimes
that's
we
what's
really have
exciting.
no idea, as we saw with the LSU Mississippi State. We really had no idea there.
Yep.
Mississippi State, almost three touchdown dog, comes out on top with a win in LSU. I mean, I love it. I love betting. It's an absolute blast. But so talk to me a little bit. So you were at FanDuel for a few years. You
Yep.
were there before really PASPA started. I mean, it started to trickle in. I'm here in New Jersey, so I've been paying attention a little bit longer than most people around the country. And we know Governor Christie, for a couple of the things he did wrong, he did one good thing that was really, really right. And I think this was it. And started to push this through to just get it. I guess I don't even know how to unregulatorized. I don't know. You use the word. You're more the lawyer than I am, but he figured out a way to try and make it less illegal. Is that a good way to say it? And I think New Jersey has come up with a pretty good idea. So you tell me exactly what you guys saw, especially when you were there at FanDuel a couple years ago.
Yeah. So most people. I mean, you probably understand, but I think most people don't. People were like, "Oh, sports betting is illegal in America." And that wasn't exactly true because it was. Everyone's been to Vegas and has placed bets there. It's that there was a federal law that prevented states from legalizing it. It was called PASPA. I think people have heard of it now. And so essentially what New Jersey did is pass a law legalizing sports betting, which they couldn't do according to the federal law. Then they challenged the federal law and said, you know what, that's unconstitutional. That's a violation of our it's the anti-commandeering rule, which to bring up my old kind of constitutional law days. And so they said, you can't not let us do that. This is a states' right issue. If we want to legalize sports betting on our borders, you can't stop us. And they won. That went to the Supreme Court, and it was like obviously a very different issue than many others that go before the Supreme Court. But ultimately, it come down to a constitutional challenge, and the court sided with New Jersey and said, this doesn't mean sports betting is now legal across the country, which is another thing a lot of people thought. It just means that states can now legalize sports betting. So New Jersey did it. Pennsylvania's done it. West Virginia's done it. Indiana, Colorado, Illinois. And what's interesting about those states is they've done it, and you could do it from your phone. There's other states, Mississippi, Iowa, that have legalized it, but you can't necessarily go and sign up from your phone. So you can go and to a sports book, which I think 6 months ago was a much more appealing thing to do before the pandemic, but there's still restrictions on where you can do it. So that's really what happened when PASPA was the word people use is repealed, meaning they took it away so that states could now start legalizing sports betting.
I think repealed was the word I was looking for, so I appreciate that, Ari. Appreciate that. Appreciate you for that one. And
Mhm.
I think it is really interesting, again, being here in New Jersey and kind of seeing what was happening firsthand and how it was going about. As you said, it's now not legalized throughout the country. I think we're up to 26, 27-ish states, and it's all different forms. As you said, some are you can just sign up on your phone. I just went to my DraftKings app. I would go to my PointsBet app. I say I want to bet here. They ask me for some information. I give it to them. They give me the thumbs up and we're ready to go. Other states, as we just saw, if anybody pays attention, in Illinois, if I'm not mistaken, you were supposed to have to go to a sports book, register there, then you could bet on your phone. But the closest sports book to Chicago is so many hours away. And it was just a whole cluster. And eventually they just said, you're right, screw it. You can just sign up from your phone. I think in like a couple of days, they had 250,000 people sign up like that. So it's really interesting to see how some of these states are doing it right, I guess, quote unquote. And then some of these states are doing it wrong. I think one interesting one, Delaware. Delaware actually was legal before New Jersey, right? But they made everything have to go through like one sports book or the lottery, and their total handle is like 1/10 of what New Jersey does in a month now, which is really
Well,
interesting. And I'm curious, kind of, what you've seen from that end.
yeah, I don't think wrong is the right word, because I think I think people underestimate how difficult it is to launch a regulatory structure around an online gambling business. You know, Europe has had it for years, and the UK Gaming Commission is at this point it's a very mature body
Mhm.
and it's a mature market. Whereas in the US, you've had gambling's been legal in states, and you've had online iGaming to a certain extent, and you've had the lottery, so you have gambling commissions that are familiar with how sort of a regulated gaming should work. But then you have sports betting, which is online sports betting, especially, which is way more mass appealing than sort of the lottery or online casino would be, at least to sort of the
Mhm.
mainstream sports fan. And also, it being on your phone, that there's all kinds of things that people have to figure out. Are the people who are placing wagers actually in the state? Are they spoofing their IP address? Are they spoofing their GPS? Are they actually over the age of 21? Um, are they actually? Do they have gambling problems? Are they on any anti-money laundering exclusion lists? Like, there's all these things that I think the regular consumer is just like, why can't I just go on here and bet? And obviously, I'm on the business side of things, and I want it to be as easy as possible, but I do sometimes feel for the sort of the state regulatory bodies that it's tough. They got to stand it up in the right way before they can really allow it to be online. And I think the states are doing a really good. I think New Jersey's done a great job, setting the tone. Pennsylvania's followed well, and so the six states that are doing it online fully, meaning you can register online, are serving as a really good example that it can work, and that's going to be the best motivator for a state that doesn't take online registration. I think Illinois looked at the way things are going in New Jersey and Colorado, and sort of the revenues coming in, and all these risks about problem gambling and underage play are largely being handled well by the compliance teams. That seems like a great revenue source, especially at a time where I'm sure a lot of people would like to see more state revenue. And I'm certainly for our business, I couldn't be happier they did it. I know my old bosses at FanDuel feel the same, and our partners at DraftKings as well. And so it's and consumers, obviously everyone's happy. And I think the states want to keep people happy. They just have to make sure that they do it in a way that doesn't blow up in their own faces. And so I think they've done a good job of that, considering the pressures.
Yeah, and again, not really understanding the entire legal side of it and kind of how all of that works. I mean, that is where you come in, if I'm not mistaken. So that part does help. I think you have a JD, if I'm not mistaken, from Georgetown.
I do.
Okay,
So
all right.
the internet's a good source of
It's
information, it
incredible, dude. I
seems.
can find
Yeah,
out everything there. So appreciate the internet for that. But I mean, in that case, like how from your point of view again, so you're let's put you back at FanDuel when PASPA was repealed, or at least when the rumblings of it started happening. How did you start to look at that from okay, well, we figured out the DFS side of things here at FanDuel. We made it so it is a skill game. No one can see my air quotes, don't worry. And understanding what we can then do now to start to either pivot, add, or include an entire new section of this thing that we've never had it before. We've never had online gambling here. Obviously, there's offshore books. We know people use those still, even with the legalization here. How did you start to look at it again from the legal team side and from your point of view at FanDuel to say, okay, what do we need to do to get our ducks in a row? Because this thing really looks like it's going to start happening.
Yeah, and so you're right. So when I first joined FanDuel in 2015, I was on the legal side. Um, and actually, after PASPA was repealed, moved over to the business side and ran kind of the day to day on the DFS business until joining Action. And it wasn't that a hard a thing to reconcile because they are two different things. I think people can see plenty of similarities, and they certainly attract a similar demo. But from a legal standpoint, you had DFS, which was a game where you draft X amount of people playing in a real world game, and you get points that are derivative of what the players are doing, and you're not betting on a binary outcome. It was me versus it's peer to peer, and it's about sort of the accumulation of statistics. Whereas betting is very much there's binary outcomes. So obviously, you can do parlays, etc. But it's more with the way things are handicapped in betting. Most things are more or less balanced out, and it's a little more chance based. There's smart bettors out there, but the whole point is that if the spread's +3, like it's closer to 50-50 shot that it's going to be in either side of it. And so I think you just defined what those were. Like DFS game was, you build a roster and play against somebody else. And a bet is you pick a market and you place the wager on it. And those were two different offerings. And I think because of the regulations, you've seen FanDuel and DraftKings keep them pretty separate. You can share a wallet, but you have basically sportsbook.draftkings.com and sportsbook.fanduel.com and fanduel.com and draftkings.com, which are the DFS sites.
Yeah, and I think I like that wallet sharing thing because all the money that I win at DraftKings on the DFS side, I can just go take that and start betting with it. I think that part's pretty sweet, so I appreciate them there. And so in that case, so obviously you were on the business side, as you said, at FanDuel with the DFS side. What exactly were you doing there before you decided to make your leap here to Action Network?
So after PASPA was repealed and we went through the merger at FanDuel with Betfair US, subsidiary of at the time Paddy Power Betfair, now Flutter. So there was obviously a lot of focus on the expansion of the sports betting side. We'd brought people in from overseas, since all the knowledge that the Europeans have, and had a guy come in from there to sort of GM the DFS business, and we thought it would make sense for me to move over there and run the day to day with him, given less focus given sort of my legal background, could obviously bring that to the day to day, since a lot of resources were going to the sports book, and really focus on continuing to grow that. But one of the main functions of the DFS business at FanDuel and DraftKings is they're amazing grounds for sportsbook acquisition. And it's no secret why FanDuel and DraftKings have such a dominant lead. They're tech companies. They've built good products. They've also acquired a ton of users who have their credit cards on file that are sports fans. And so there's a huge advantage there. So it's also, how do we acquire more fantasy users, retain them, and then cross sell them into sports betting as well, was a huge part of it. And so when I was approached by Action Network, Action had traditionally derived most of its revenue from subscriptions. There's different tiers of subscriptions, depending on sort of like how hardcore a bettor you are. But a huge untapped potential for Action was also to be an affiliate. Essentially, just like FanDuel and DraftKings were taking their DFS users and trying to get them to bet on sports, Action Network's users were a perfectly qualified audience to do that. So I was brought over to sort of build out that affiliate business.
Yeah.
And so that's what our focus has been for a lot of 2020, and it unsurprisingly has gone remarkably well. And there's no slowdown in sight. There's Illinois just in time for this football season. Hopefully we'll see Tennessee and Michigan before the end of the year, and hopefully many more states in 21 and 22.
We're crossing our fingers, man. It is a lot of fun, again, being here in New Jersey, and then having Pennsylvania right to the left, getting to see everything they're doing, obviously, with the Barstool Sportsbook opening up now as well, and kind of seeing that media company / sportsbook model, I guess, for lack of a better term. We're seeing PointsBet, and they merged, or they have a deal, however we want to call it, partnership with NBC. Obviously, Fox Bet. Fox doesn't own that. I mean, they created that media partnership to now allow people to start using theirs. So, kind of curious to see what Disney does, because that's going to be a fun one to see how they kind of spin that to make it okay, which is going to be great. I mean, their shareholders are going to appreciate it. I don't know if those moms and those kids are going to love it so much, though. But with that, so you bring up the DFS side, and kind of they have their credit card on file. We can already understand who they are. And I think one thing that's really interesting, I just had a great conversation with another gentleman in the sports betting space about the entertainment type better. And that's kind of what I am. I put a bunch of $10 bets everywhere, kind of just cross my fingers, probably break even. And that was just more fun than having no bets anywhere and still breaking even. Right. So how have you guys seen, especially at Action Network, in that understanding of with that media model, and again, that Barstool model, and kind of seeing that people are probably more interested in others losing than they are actually with others winning. And case in point, with the Action Network, we can fade Rovell every day, I think, on the PointsBet app. You can pretty much just click that button and fade him immediately. What have you guys seen on that end, and why do you think that's so appealing to the United States public? Why we all love winners here? Why are we always kind of rooting for them losers? I don't get it. Not to
So
call
I
Darren
th-
Rovell a loser, by the way. I like
no, I
Darren
know, I
Rovell.
know.
I follow him everywhere. Don't worry.
I do too. Although, like outside of Twitter, most people love Darren Rovell. So I actually think most people, there's kind of two separate things you bring up. One is the better in terms of his own consumption of content is interested in himself winning, right? I think that's why the users on the Action Network are all sports bettors. There's really, you might want to read a power ranking that's
Mhm.
tied to betting if you're not a bettor, but ultimately that's the audience we speak to, and they kind of just want to know a way to it ranges from the more casual who just want a way to bet confidently and to get a little bit of information to understand that the Patriots on Monday Night Football are 63% against the spread. I made that up, by the way, but like that might be a kind of stat that people see and it gives them a little bit of confidence. Doesn't mean they're going to win, but it is certainly, if you play certain ways and you play the odds, so to speak, you have a better chance in the long run of being profitable. But I think a lot of people just kind of want the confidence when they bet. Then there's the more hardcore bettors who are doing it way more for profit. Like I think, like you're saying, you do it for entertainment, I do it for entertainment. When you want to do it for profit, there's so many systems and algorithms and data and science behind it. Really, it's impressive, and that's sort of our upper tier descriptions speak to that audience. But that's not for everyone. And I think if you're betting $10, $50 here and there, like I don't even think you can take advantage of those systems, because if you bet 50 and you earn 12% on your money, you're winning $6. We kind of find that boring, but like that's a pretty good return in a weekend.
Mhm.
If you're doing it at scale. Now, then there's the content play of just watching it, and I think where people like watching losers is because it's content, it's entertaining for people. I think everyone. I think if you just watch people win, you just feel like, well, couldn't that wasn't there's jealousy, there's frustration. Whereas betting, there's a reason they say the house always wins. It's hard. And that's where we hope at Action to make it a little easier for people. We hope you can win a little more often if you play if you follow us, and enjoy your betting experience more. Also, when you bet and use the Action Network app, it tracks your bets. You can see your win probability updating live. You can see sort of your betting portfolio, like a stock portfolio, to see how you've done over the last month. And so I think it's to make it more fun if you even if you are losing, and hopefully winning at a higher rate than you were before. But in terms of watching other people, it's kind of the unfortunate times we live in, that people love watching Instagram things where people epic fails and ride a skateboard into a metal pole. Somewhat similar when you lose a bad beat.
Yeah, just with your wallet instead, right? My
Yep.
favorite one from this weekend was the over under on the Eagles Bengals game was at 47.
46.
Yeah,
46 and a half, I
it
think.
was.
Yeah.
Yeah. How
Yeah.
perfect, right? How perfect. They tie, it ends. I hate Philadelphia and everything about it, so I'm always for anything that happens there. But yeah, it's just so interesting for me to see, and kind of been paying attention to this industry more and more. and really kind of see again. And before, I did use probably the incorrect terminology when I said watching some states do it right and some states do it wrong. But in terms of, again, legalities and all that, I can't speak to any of it. But at the same time, what I can speak to is seeing that New Jersey in August had a total handle. So the number of money placed on teams and bets and sporting events was $668 million, which is an insane amount of money without football existing, right? We didn't have any college football. We didn't have any professional football. I am so excited to see what that number is in September. We then have Pennsylvania, who's starting to come up, obviously Vegas and Nevada and everything over there. And now more and more states like Colorado are coming and opening up. As you said, with all these states kind of doing it differently, at what point do they need like a uniform system to make, your life at the Action Network, an affiliate model, just making it easier to make DraftKings and FanDuel, just to make their lives easier? Because clearly there are ways that it's being done where places like New Jersey are raking in revenue, places like Pennsylvania are, and there's places like Delaware where people even forgot that sports betting is actually capable. So how do you see it from that perspective with some of these states, as you said, Michigan, Tennessee potentially popping up? Is there a uniformity coming, or are we going to let all the states just do it the way they want to do it, just to see who crumbles and burns first? How do you see it from that perspective?
I see it as it happens. So when New Jersey's kind of legalized it, Pennsylvania was obviously in the works, right? So I think as the first movers are most likely to have the most differences, because farther downstream you'll get people they can copy what's
Mhm.
working, and so hopefully you'll start to see some uniformity there. The other part of it though is really on the operator side. There's a lot of tech challenges, and if one state requires something different than another, you almost need two separate platforms to do it, and that's why I think you've seen states where same operator, you have two separate apps depending on the state you're in. Obviously, the operators don't. People are like, "Oh, why are they doing it?" Like, if they could do it another, they don't want that. They want
Mhm.
everything to be on one thing. And I think over time, people need to remember it's really only been legal for 2 years. It's been decades in Europe. It's so new that it'll take time, but I think things will mature to the point that it gets much easier for the consumer. But for the most part, the consumer, if you're sitting in New Jersey, you don't really know what it's like on the betting app in Colorado, and so you're generally happy. Um, but it's going to be in the sportsbook's interest to make everything as seamless as possible. It just might take some time to do it. I think people just got to remember it's still early days in this industry.
Yeah, and states' interest too, right? Because the more people that are betting, the more revenue that the states are getting. Like, it's like a very easy equation there, and I'm sure the easier it is for states to do this to allow people to bet, it's gonna be fun. Again, it's not like not I feel like most people are gonna be in the 80% of, "Hey, man, I just wanna place, $5, $10. Wow, Ohio State's down 21. I'm confident they'll beat Wisconsin in the Big Ten championship game. I'll put $20 on that. Look at that. They come back and win." It's pretty easy. So, it's very interesting. I just love the topic. I love the subject and being able to speak with it. So you are at the Action Network. You're the Chief Commercial Officer. Now, you've said the business side multiple times. It sounds like you do something with the affiliate revenue, but what exactly is a chief commercial officer at the Action Network do?
I don't know. I just show up. And they kind of give no, but so um, I'm responsible essentially for all business strategy, essentially. So what do we do to make money? And right now that falls into, we have an affiliate business and we have a subscription business. And the different ways we drive that are through partnerships with sports books, through partnerships with professional sports leagues. Like we have a partnership with the PGA Tour. Um, and sort of kind of dealing with all like the business relationships would be kind of my main focus. Action's really two things. We're a content business, and that we're a big digital media property and have a big content team, and we're very much a tech company, and we have a full tech stack. We have a great website. We have a great app, and so those are really the two levers you would pull to drive those two businesses. So it's an incredible amount of partnership between sort of myself leading sort of the business efforts, and then Chad Millman, he referenced on the content side, and a guy named Brian Mead, who's one of our founders and leads on our product side, um, and kind of how we can leverage our product and our content in order to get people to use our app, get people to read our content, get people to subscribe, get people to engage with the content we put out there, and through that, hopefully, in the process, convert them into sports bettors, customers of our partners.
And subscribers, of course, and then have
Yep.
them click that, hey, at PointsBet you get $1 for blah 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 blah, and then they go there. And with that, with the affiliate side specifically, and understanding it just a little bit more than the next guy, once you get hit once normally, right? You get someone to go to PointsBet and they put their $500 in, you get your ding, they get theirs, everybody's happy. You can't really do too much with that anymore, right? Like that person is a part of PointsBet, and now the Action Network, they got their cut, rightfully so. How do you then take that person and make sure that they do become a subscriber, right? Hey, you have $1,000 to PointsBet. You want to use it correctly, right? Like, how do you go about, again, on that content side, on that tech side, to make sure that that person that did click that $1 for 150 offer, how do you really then kind of, I mean, they're in the funnel. How do you continue to shove them down the funnel to say, hey, like we have all these systems and tools in place to help you. You should utilize them and give us X dollars a month. So that way that $150 goes so much further.
Yeah, and that's why. So look, if there's 19 sports books, I've lost count in New Jersey.
Mhm.
Um, we partner with more than half of them, but it's impossible to effectively give them all
Mhm.
a dominant share of voice. And so we've tried kind of made, because I think we sort of sit at a cross section of being a media company, tech company, and an affiliate. We also have, produce original content and have a very outstanding product that we try to lean in with partners um, that help leverage those other sides of our business as well. So PointsBet you bring up is a perfect example. So we had done the Fade Rovell series with
Mhm.
them. We had done something with Worldwide Wob when he last season, which is this season, but last season before the pause.
Mhm.
Um, and then on the product side, they were our first partner with BetSync. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that. So
Yep.
basically, so you can track your bets in action. So you can
Oh,
go
okay.
place a bet somewhere, track it inside. But with BetSync, you can connect your PointsBet account and your Action Network account, and then every bet you place with PointsBet automatically syncs with an Action. So it's essentially like follow like a Yahoo Finance or a Mint, but for sports betting. And so PointsBet's sort of enthusiasm for onboarding those other products makes us want to lean in more with them. So even if we acquire a user to PointsBet, they get BetSync. They're now continually using the Action Network app to see how their bets are doing. We can, upsell them into various subscription products, and so that's and then for PointsBet, that's also good because not only are they getting a user from us, they're getting a user that wants to continue using PointsBet because it adds to their Action Network experience.
Mhm.
So there's just more value to that user, and so we've launched BetSync with Parks in Pennsylvania. They're the only book in Pennsylvania that currently has it live. And then just BetMGM just last week. And so it's just an awesome consumer experience. And so where partners are willing to kind of lean in on the product side and the content side and do stuff that's unique, that's where we're most excited and most want to partner with them as well.
Yeah, and again, if we can get if we get everything on one page, that makes my life a heck of a lot easier, right? And especially with these
Yep.
sports books, you have to log in every time. You pretty much exit out of it because of the legal and the regulatory and making sure everything's okay. So it is always frustrating if I'm trying to figure out where did I have the 15 and a half over and where did I have the 14 and a half over. I'm always trying to flip back and forth between the books, which is always interesting. And just a couple more questions here, because again, I really do appreciate your time. Ari Borod.
Cool.
Dang it.
Harry. It's like an
Ari.
apple,
Yeah, Airy. It's like Harry, but just no H.
kind of.
Airy?
I'll let it pass. It works.
Sorry, man. My bad. I'll figure it out one of these days, I promise. But just trying to figure out again, I just saw so we're seeing sports books pop up everywhere. As we already said, the Barstool Sportsbook has went active and we saw it absolutely just explode and blow up in Pennsylvania. Another one that I found is interesting. I have a lot of friends over at 76 Capital down in PA. I saw that you guys just created a relationship with Victory. I don't know how much you can talk about that. I know it's a sports book coming up and they partnered with you guys to really, again, because they love the person that goes to Action Network, is they're really trying to pay attention. It's not just someone like, and no offense, I mean, I pay attention to Barstool stuff. It's not somebody that's just like, I want to bet the over because it's fun, right? I do that because it's fun. But how do you then go about creating these relationships with the books, understanding some are going to be a little bit more towards your demographic and some may not. Some are just, I don't know. I feel like DraftKings and FanDuel, they're just kind of the run of the mill. It's like if you have a sports book, yeah, check them out. They might have a good line that might not. I don't really care if I bet with either of them. Who's giving me more money today? And then there's others that are going to be paying attention a little bit more. How do you go about creating those relationships and knowing and saying, hey, the 20 sports books that are here in New Jersey, we really can only love and care for 5 of them, let's say. How do you go about choosing those 5?
Yeah, so that goes back to sort of what I was saying about um, books that are willing to lean in on our content and products. So again, PointsBet with Fade Rovell, DraftKings, we're doing our great moments in gambling history. It's an animated series that Chad is narrating. Victory is a particularly interesting because they're very interested on the product side
Mhm.
and on the kind of premium higher end subscription side. And so, they were very familiar with sports insights and what is now kind of Action Labs are real high end subscription products, and they want to make features from the Action Network, product features, available to their users. And so to us, that's kind of the perfect synergy in that they want sports bettors and they want their sports bettors to have the experience that Action Network helps give them. And so that's an easy one to lean in on. Otherwise, it is tough, like you're saying, because you sort of acquire a user and there's 14 other books. But if you start just if kind of Michael, if you come to our site and you sign up for 19 different books, you're not going to bet on all 19, and then very quickly 18 of them will say, hey, you're sending us pretty low value users. So that's not what we want to do either. So it's finding the right balance of committing to partners who will essentially want to elevate their consumers' experience through our content and through our product. And that's what Victory is certainly aspiring to do. It's what PointsBet has done. It's what DraftKings has done, and MGM and Parks. Those are kind of the ones that we've had the most meaningful from a content and product side.
And what do you see for the future? I mean, we're already starting to see these books again without football. Sports books are breaking the monthly record for handle. Like it's going to be a joke when September comes out, October, when we can't even leave our houses again. We're pretty much just going to be stuck inside. I mean, I voluntarily sit inside all day Saturday and Sunday to watch football. So that's me thing, but not everybody wants to do that in September. Most people wait till November to do that. What do you see for the future of this industry, and how bullish are you on the amount of people, the amount of money that's going to be funneled, maybe funneled isn't the right word, but put into the books, the places like Action Network, the affiliate opportunities that you guys have? How excited does that get you, knowing that we're only a couple months away from potentially $1 billion handle in one of these states?
Yeah, it's very exciting. It's I'm very fortunate to have gotten into this industry when I did 5 years ago, when it was just DFS, and DFS was kind of on the explosive growth side, and then basically faced every legal problem under the sun thereafter, and kind of really FanDuel and DraftKings really navigated those waters well, and it's a very exciting space to be in. A, as a sports fan, B, as an employee and at a company, kind of getting to work in an industry you love, and knowing that the popularity is going to continue to be there for a while. I think we see it in sort of our audience and how that's continued to grow, and our business objectives. Now we continue to succeed on those. But also in terms of, like, you can see what's going on in the public markets, what's going on with DraftKings stock, what's going on with Penn stock. It's clear that this is a popular industry and one that people feel pretty bullish on for the future. So I'm certainly happy to be a part of it.
Yeah, I think it is awesome. Very envious, I guess, is a way to put it. It sounds like you're having a lot of fun, and there's more fun to be had. But man, this was great. I appreciate your time today, man. Thank you.
No problem at all.
Let
Thanks
me
for
just
having me.
give me one more shot at the name. Give me one more shot. Ari Borod.
Perfect. Nailed it.
Really?
Yeah.
How? Okay. I'll take it.
You nailed the first name. Like, and
Mm,
after that, it was
it
good.
kind of went to shit. All right.
Yeah.
Ari of chief commercial officer of the Action Network. Really appreciate your time today, man.
Thanks a lot.